All right, guys, we're going to go on and get started looking over the review sheet. So we're going to look at problems 1 through 6 first. Now on problems 1 through 6, we want to name the triangle based off its angles and sides. So each one of these should have how many parts to the answer? 2, because we're looking for angles and sides. Is there one of these in particular that y'all want to look at? So if we look at problem number 4, it tells us that all 4 sides are equal. So this would be, yes, equilateral and equiangular. Because equilateral means all 3 sides are the same. Equiangular means all 3 angles. If one of them is equilateral, it has to be equiangular. If a triangle is equiangular, it has to be equilateral. Those two will go together every single time. And it's really based off the fact that congruent angles are opposite the congruent sides, and congruent sides are opposite congruent angles. They will always go together. So these two would go together here. Any other questions on 1 through 6? Should be in the middle there or over by Eric. Are there any more review sheets over there? Okay. Yep. You're good. And a little bit, or Eric can fill it for you. Any other questions on 1 through 6 that y'all want to look at? So let's look at question number 3. So what do we know about the angles? Because it's obtuse, because one of the angles is greater than 90.
What does scalene mean again?
All sides are different. So for 1 through 6, it's either going to have acute, obtuse, right, or equiangular. For the angles, for the sides, we're going to either have scalene, isosceles, because for angles, it's either going to be acute, obtuse, or right, or equiangular, if all of them are the same. For sides, scalene, none of them are congruent. Isosceles, 2 sides are congruent, or equilateral, all 3. And if a triangle is equilateral, it's also going to be equiangular. If it's equiangular, it's also going to be equilateral. Any other questions on 1 through 6? Any questions on 7 through 12? 7 through 12, classify the triangle by its angles and find the measure of angle 1. One of these in particular that y'all want to look at. Number 8. So if we look at number 8, we do know that the 2 angles that are given are 35 and 30. So those are both acute angles. We still need to find the measure of angle 1. Now any 3 angles in a triangle add up to be what?
180.
So we can take the measure of angle 1, I'll just call x, plus 30 plus 35 is equal to 180.
Could we just add 30 and 35 and then minus that by 180?
Yes, because we combine like terms, so that'd be 30 plus 35, which would give us 65. And from here, we can do what? minus 65 from both sides, minus 65 from 180, which would tell us x is 125 degrees.
Do we have to put the degrees start?
No. But how would we classify this triangle by its angles? It would be,
Obtuse.
because we do have one angle that is greater than 90. Because if it's obtuse, you have one angle greater than 90. If it's right, it has one angle that is equal to 90 degrees. Yes, thank you.
What would it be?
115. It would be 115. And luckily, it would still be obtuse. Any other questions on these here? So we're good with 9 and 10? Very good. How about 11 and 12? I can, I just haven't set it up yet. 12. So we have two angles given. One of them is 17, the other is, and still these three angles add together to be. So x plus 17 plus 34 is equal to 180. Well, we can add 17 and 34 together, which gives us, is 1 carry the 1, 51. Now at this point here we can, on both sides, which tells us x is 129 degrees. And how would we classify it by its angles?
So it's all the same.
Because any three angles in a triangle add together to be 180.
Yes. Okay.
And a little bit. Any other questions on this here? Okay. Which one?
How about number 7? Is it the same way? It's 90 degrees?
Yes. Because it would be the same thing. Now we can classify it by its angles because this would be a what?
Right angle.
It'd be a right triangle because we do have it one right angle. Now the rest of the angles will add together to be 180, so we can say x plus 90 plus 23 is equal to. And if we subtract 113 from both sides, x is equal to 67. Well, what is 67 plus 23? 90. Because the two acute angles in a right triangle do add together to be 90. Because these would add together to be 90 degrees because it is a right triangle. So we good with 7 through 12? Questions on 13 through 18? 13? So for 13 through 18, this is the exterior angle theorem. The exterior angle is equal to what? The sum of the opposite two interior angles. So here it'd be 50 plus 70. Well, what is 50 plus 70? Now, since the exterior angle is just x, well, the exterior angle is 120. We don't have to do anything extra with this one here. We ready to move on to 15?
Yes.
So 15. So what is the exterior angle in 15? is equal to the sum of the opposite two interior angles, which would be these two. 4x plus 2 plus 30. And we can have it in either order. We can do 30 plus 4x plus 2. Any questions on how we set this up? Now we can combine like terms because 2 and 30 are like terms. So 2 plus 30 is. Now we need to get everything on the same side, so we can do what first? We can subtract 8 from both sides, subtract 8 from 32, which will tell us that 6x is equal to 4x plus 24. Because 32 minus 8 is going to be 24. Then what can we do next? Minus 4x from both sides so that we have all the variables on the same side. 2x is equal to 2x is equal to write that a little better. 12. And that agrees with the back of the answer key? Probably not. $80. Well, what did it ask for? Measure of the exterior angle. So the exterior angle is what? 8 plus 6x is what the angle is on the outside? Well, what's the value of x? So we have to plug it back in. Well, 6 times 12 is? And 8 plus 72 is? Which is the measure of the exterior angle. Questions on this here?
Is it alright if I move that there so I can
Yeah.
see what I can see? Yes, please.
No, 4.
What?
So, like, why did you circle the 30 and the 4x plus 2?
Because they're the opposite interior angles. Yes. We ready for the next one?
Do you like this smartboard better?
Because the directions for these here is to find the measure of the exterior angle. To be able to find the exterior angle, we need to know the value of x. Yes, sir.
Do you like your smartboard better?
I'm learning it. It is brighter, easier to see. So, 17.
Yes.
So we need to find the measure of the exterior angle, yes? Okay, we're done.
Yeah, that's what I was sitting there thinking. I was like, do I even have to do something? Will you do 8?
What is the measure of the exterior angle? 120.
Oh, God. Working it out. That's funny. I was working it out. I was thinking
So let's look at 18. The exterior angle is 18x plus 5. The opposite two interior angles are -1 plus 8x and 46. So we can add these two together and it's going to equal the exterior angle. Well, before we do anything with adding and subtracting on both sides, we can combine like terms. Because -1 and 46 are. And -1 plus 46 is 45. 46 minus 1 is 45. Now that we have all the like terms combined, we can get the variables on one side and everything else on the other. So what can we do first?
Add 5 on both sides.
Almost.
Oh, -5.
Minus 5. Since the 5 is positive, we would subtract it from both sides. So 18x is equal to 8x plus 40. Yes. What? So 18x minus 8x is 10x is equal to, well, 8x minus 8x is 0. And last but not least, we can divide by 10. Now we need to plug it back in because we need
times 4 plus
18 times 4 is 72. So the exterior angle is 77 degrees. Any other questions on this here? Yes. Questions on 19 through 22. Now this is a right triangle, yes? So we do know that all three angles do add together to be 180. Or these two acute angles of the right triangle add together to be 90. So we could add them all together and set it equal to 180, or add the two acute angles together and set it equal to 90. Both will work. And let's see what it's asking for. Find the measure of the two acute angles. So we're not just finding the value of x, we have to plug it back in. Well, you're going to have to do both, because it's going to want both. Now, what we solve for first, well, we want to combine like terms, so 3x and 4x is 11 minus 5 is plus is equal to 90. Now we want to get x by itself, so we would subtract 6 from both sides, which tells me that 7x is equal to, and then we would Any questions on how we found the value of x? Now we need to
3x plus 4x.
and 11 minus 5 is. Now we can take the two equations, so 3x plus 11, but instead of putting x, we're going to put 12. Well, 36 plus 11 is 48, because 3 times 12 would be 36, plus 11 is 48, which would be one of the angles. The other would be 4 times 12 minus 5. Well, 4 times 12 is 48, minus 5 is,
Where'd you get that 30?
or,
It was 48.
Third-
47. 11 plus 36 is
47, yes.
Wait, I'm confused. Why did you do it?
Because the instructions said to do what?
To find the.
Do acute. Yes.
Doing this so we can add it back in and get the two acute angles.
Well, this is one of the acute angles. Because we actually want the measures as the angles themselves, not the value of x. So really, there are 3 answers to this because we need the 2 angles and we also need x, because we need to find the value of x to be able to find the angles themselves. Any other questions on this here? Any other questions on 19 through 22? Okay. Okay. So again, these 2 acute angles are going to add together to be what? So the first thing we want to do is combine like terms. So 8x plus x is? Right, because one of them is just going to be 10. 8 times 10 would give us 80. Because it worked out that x and one of the angles were the same because one of them was just x. Any questions on this here? '23 and 24, which one do y'all want to look at? 24. Mind if I borrow for a second? Because I realize this needs to get. We do, but we went on and did because since x is 10, this would be 10, and 8 times 10 is, so 10 and 80 would be the 2 angles. Now, looking at 24, how many answers are we going to have total for this here? 7. Because we have 3 sets of sides, 3 sets of angles, and it wants what? And the congruency statement. So we're going to have 7 parts total. Now, if we look at the angles, well, we can say angle H is going to be congruent to angle what? B, because they both have 1. We could also say that angle J is congruent to angle C because they both have 2. And lastly, angle I is going to be congruent to angle A because they both have 3, because we're matching up the marks. HI, so line segment HI is going to be congruent to what? AB or BA, either one. Then we can say JI is congruent to AC because they both have 2. And the last one, HJ, is going to be congruent to what? BC because they both have 3. Now, the order in which we label them really doesn't matter. We just need each one of those 3. And the last thing we need is our triangle congruency statement. So the way we name one of the triangles first, does it really matter? No. HJI. But I do need to name one of them in a particular way. Then the next one would be following that same path. So we started with angle H first. B, C, A. You can also just match up the angles in order because HJI, HJI, B, C, A. The angles will match up. Any questions on this here? Yeah. 3 angles, 3 sides, and a congruency statement. Okay. Now looking at this next one, 25 through 30, we can do this one pretty straightforward because what we want to do first is really label what is congruent. Because if I label all the stuff that's congruent for this problem, what matches up, most of it will fill itself in. Because they tell us ABC is congruent to DEF. So I know that angle A is congruent to what angle? D, because they're both first. What would be second? B and E, and then we have C and F. Now we can also do the side lengths, and their sides are going to match up because they're going to go in the same order, yes? So AB is going to match up with what side length? Well, DE, yes? And those side lengths, because AB is connecting the angle with one mark with the angle with 2. So 1 and 2 would be DE. EF would match up to what? BC, and DF or FD matches up to AC, yes? I got a different color. Well, we know B is what? Angle B. And it matches up with E, so E is 98. I know F is 32, so C is 32. AB is 10, and it matches up with DE, so it would be EF matches up with, so 15, and AC is. So any questions on how we filled this in? So we just matched up what was congruent, yes? So let's look at the question. So DE is what? Would be AB, which is 10. The measure of angle E. Because we have it down as 98, yes? Because it matches up with angle B. Angle C is 32 because it matches up with angle F. Do we know what the measure of angle A is quite yet? No, we'll find it here in a minute. EF is 15 and AC is 12. Because we got all of this here from just doing what? Matching up the two, yes? Now angle A is the only thing we have left, but any 3 angles in a triangle add up to B. So we can add 98 and, so 0, carry the 1, would be 130. And we can subtract 130 from? So if A is 50, what's the measure of angle D? 50. Sir.
Can I go to the bathroom now?
In a little bit, we've still got a bit more to cover. Thank you, sir. Questions on 31 and 32? Questions on 31 and 32? 31. So on both of these here, we're really matching up what is congruent. So looking at the statement, we're saying that H is congruent to L. I is congruent to M, J and N, and then we have K and O. So 3x plus 7 is going to equal what? because those are the two that match. We also have that 2y plus 4 is an equal what? 20, because those are the two angles that match, yes? Now we just need to solve for x and y. So for this first one here, we can subtract 7 from both sides, which tells us that 3x is equal to 133. And at this point here, we can divide both sides by 3, telling us x is equal to 44 and 1/3, or 0.3 repeated. We'll do the same thing on the other side. We would subtract 4 from both sides, telling us that 2y is equal to 16. Then we would divide both sides by 2, telling us y is equal to 8. Any other questions on 31 or 32? Okay. Let's look at 33 through 45. Determine whether there's enough information to say the two triangles are congruent. And if they are congruent, state why and write the congruency statement. So is there one of these in particular that y'all want to look at?
30.
So 33. Is there enough information to say that these two triangles are congruent?
Yes.
So how can we say it? Well, if we could, it would be angle side side. Is that one of our congruency statements? No. So is there enough information? No. This is not true. Because again, the ones that work are side side, side angle side, angle side angle, angle side or side angle angle. The one special one that we had was hypotenuse leg, and this only worked if it was a right triangle. Because if it was a right triangle, then hypotenuse leg would work. Now the ones that don't work are angle, 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 or
Angle side side.
side side angle. These are the two that don't work. All the rest do. So we good to look at the next one? Not yet. So let's look at 34. Can we say that these two triangles are congruent?
Yes.
Yes. By?
Side, side, side.
Okay, so what sides are congruent? What?
AC, EF,
Congruent to AD, or EF and AB. And lastly, we would have CB and what? DE. So we'd have triangle what? ABC would be congruent to what? ABC, and then F. So if it is true, we need all three parts. If it's not true, we can just say no. Any other ones on 33 through 45, I think?
No.
Do we feel good with these here, saying yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold up. All right. Hold on.
We'll look at 46 and 47 last if we have time, because they will show up as a bonus, not as one of the normal questions. Questions on 48 through 52, because I feel like these are the last set, aren't they?
You got 248.
Yeah, that's fine. So this here determines the two triangles are congruent and explain, because we're not just determining if they are congruent, but we also have to make sure that the statement is true. Because let's look at 48. So can we say that these two triangles are congruent in this 48 here? Yes, because we do have side, 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 yes?
Yeah.
Now, so the first one is EFG. So EFG, yes? And the other one is HKI. Are those two statements the same?
Yeah.
No. Wrong statement. And that's all we have to say. Now, we'll go and look at the other 48 because it's right here. Now, we do know that angle C, those are going to be vertical angles. So in both triangles, I do have an angle, side, angle, side, angle. Yes? Now, we do need to make sure that the statements are true. So A to B, C. Here we're going from E. So are those two statements the same? So can we say they're congruent?
Yeah.
By angle, side, angle. That's it for that one. Yes. And when he gets back, Logan. Yes. So, are there any other questions on any other part of this test? Okay. If you have after school, you can go. Yes. For those of you who are not leaving, guys, do we want to look at 46 or 47? Because if we have time, we can look at both. You want to look at 46 or 47? So guys, let's still pay attention right here. 46 and 47 are using the properties of isosceles and equilateral triangles. So for this here, because these two angles are congruent, it means the sides opposite them are congruent. So these two sides here. Now, since one of them already has a single mark, the other one will put 1 so that we can show that those are congruent. Now, that means really every side except for this one here are congruent to each other. So our 3y minus 18 is equal to our 2x minus 7, but it's also equal to what? Or y, our y plus 4. So we can use this, the fact that these two are equal, to solve. We wouldn't set it equal to our 2x minus 7 because that has x, not y. We can't solve two variables at once. Now, the first thing we need to do here is to, well, get the y's on the same side. So we can subtract y from both sides, telling me that 2y minus 18 is equal to 4. Huh? 2y? And then what can we do next? We can add 18 to both sides, guys, telling us that 2y is equal to almost 22. And last but not least, we would divide both sides by 2, telling us y is equal to 11.
Okay.
Now, we can plug it back in, especially right here, because what is 11 plus 4? Mm-hmm. Or, 15. Mm-hmm. So all of these here are going to have a measure of 15, yes? So what is 2x minus 7 going to equal? 15, because that is the length of the line. So now we can solve for the value of x by first adding 7 to both sides, telling us that 2x is equal to. You're good. And then we would divide both sides by 2, Incidentally, x is 11. Any other questions on this here? Here in just a second. Guys, by the way, all of your homework is going to be due Thursday. I'm going to give you till Thursday at the end of the day to get it turned in because it is Thanksgiving, the week before Thanksgiving break. But you do need to get it all turned in.